Thank you very much. Well, all the speakers have been presented, so I invite Mr. Ladha to this panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. You're the most important group of people in this Congress. Thank you for coming. Let me start by thanking the organizing committee. What I'm going to talk today, and if I can start. Okay, there you are. So some of these things based on my own personal experience of last 3 decades, but also working with large number of national scientists in Asia, especially South Asia, also with the farmers. I have come up with this list, which I'm going to share with you. And some of these changes, of course, not going to happen in completely new. These changes are already ongoing, but I think the rate of speeding up is going to go higher. And there are many drivers why it's going to happen, and I'll mention those drivers as well as we go along. Those who know rice cultivation in Asia, this is the most important activity which happened in rice culture. And it is tillage, wet tillage. So rice is grown in monsoon, so with rainfall, the soil gets flooded, and then soil is mixed. That's the process called puddling, and I'll talk more about it. So from puddling, I see that there is going to be change, no puddling or reduced tillage. It's just because of shortage of labor, and also the turnaround time which is available. From transplanting, this is another process which is largely done by women, and there is a drudgery involved with this, and it will move away from transplanting to drill seeding or machine transplanting. By the way, rice is grown with continuous flooding. There is no reason why you should have water all around rice growing period. So I see there will be more controlled irrigation and maybe even no flooding. There are many areas where 3 crops of rice are grown, and I think that's going to go away because of one reason, water shortage, maybe 2 crops. One could be even continuously flooded because of monsoon, and the other one could be aerobic rice culture. Inefficiencies of carbon footprints, I think we will have more climate smart practices. A lot of good work is going on, and you will hear more about it. I think hand weeding is not going to be very popular just because of labor. So more herbicide uses will be happening from drudgery to friendly machines. I think already a lot of machines are being used in that part of the world. Land fragmentation. This is something is so important. I mean, so far we have seen lands getting fragmented. I think that's going to change, and there will be more land consolidation. It's just because the farmers are retiring and not new farmers are coming in. And elderly farmers will be replaced by young farmers. And why I'm saying young farmers, so we have to make sure that we bring in the technologies which young farmers like. And business as usual to maybe more knowledge-driven and sensor-based agriculture. Less profitable to, I like to believe it, more profitable, and more depressing farming to more attractive farming. So with this background, let me share with you the structure which I have for my presentation. Soil puddling, what is good about it or what is bad about it. It is a century-old practice. Major drivers of shift, and what are other options we have if we tell farmers to not do puddle, and go a little bit of the details of that. And performance, I like to share with you a recent study which we have just conducted, a meta-analysis of some of these practices, and then go in a little bit of agronomy and plant breeding, how they can contribute to the shift from transplanting or puddling and transplanting to direct seeding. And what are the threats and opportunities, and where should we invest money if we have a donor which says, okay, I have a few $1 million or several $1 million, where would you like to invest in? So, as I said, puddling is mixing of soil in simple terms. And you can do it in various ways. You can use the animal power or machine power. This process is breaking down soil aggregates into uniform mud by applying mechanical force to wet soil. And what it does, it decreases the non-capillary porosity and a corresponding increase in the capillary porosity. Soil water retention markedly increase because you are developing a hard pan. And water percolation rates decrease markedly. And that's the whole purpose of doing that. And increase the storage of water in root zone. So in addition to these two important functions puddling do, but also it controls weeds. And that's why farmers would normally do it. And it also, if you look at the chemistry of soil and the nutrient dynamics, then phosphorus availability increases, and also nitrogen availability increases because of biological nitrogen fixation. And more important, farmers find it easy. When the soils are puddled and transplanting is done, it's easy to transplant. So farmers puddle the soil, they grow rice, what we call seed bed, and then they transplant. And you notice here, at least in that part of the world, it's all done by women. And why they transplant rice? To ensure uniform plant stand and give a head start over emerging weeds, and to establish even the field is not labeled. Now, the question which I like to raise, and my colleagues have been raising it, if we ensure these three conditions, do we need transplanting? And the answer is probably no. What are the bad effects of puddling? It requires large volume of water. It's energy intensive, by the way, and it destroys the soil structure. So if you have in a rotation where rice is followed by an upland crop, with, let's say, wheat or maize, then it's not beneficial for those crops. Large turnaround time, and there are denitrification losses because of continuous flooding and drying, and decreases availability of phosphorus for next crop. So again, the question is puddling essential. And of course, farmers don't care about these technicalities which I mentioned to you. I mean, for them, it's the labor intensive. It requires 25 person per day per hectare, per crop. And timely availability of labor is a big problem, and that's why the wage is going up. Then you have drudgery problem, women doing this practice. And you have 1,500 megajoule per crop of energy requirement for puddling, and 40 centimeter water. And farmers care about the money. He or she is losing about 30% of total cost. And these are the drivers of the shift. So what are the options we have to offer to farmers? If farmers still want to do puddling because of maybe some edaphic reasons, some soils don't support no puddling, then you can still do direct seeding, and you can use broadcasting, which of course is very inefficient way of doing it. We don't recommend that. But you can use drills on puddled soils, and you can do, of course, transplanting by manually or also by machine. These are the machines, very nice machines in Korea which come out recently. And these are the lightweight machines. They run beautiful in puddled soil. Of course, these are not explored in Asia so far. This is a practice where you still raise the seedlings and transplant mechanically. And it's becoming popular in many areas in South Asia and also Southeast Asia. So this is another way of doing it where puddling is essential. Now, we, of course, would like to advocate don't puddle or no tillage, okay? And what are the options we have? You can have, some farmers still have mindset problem than dry tillage, okay? Maybe reduce dry tillage and then do broadcast, which again is a very inefficient way of doing it. They can also run drills after tillage. But then this is what we recommend, no tillage. And then bring in drill, and you have nice uniform stand. And there are sometimes in between as well, some reduced tillage, and you can do unpuddled transplanting. So these are some of the options which are available. Now remember, unlike puddling and transplanting, which can go in large areas, there is no site specificity, but this is going to be site specific, and diversity in operation. Farmers can do it different ways for same reason. And we have done a lot of work in developing these machines, and you see some of these machines can run beautifully without tillage, with a large amount of residue on surface. And, and this progress has come over the years, gradual evolution, in the way the machine is picking up the seed and how it's putting it in the surface of the soil, or at least 1 to 2 centimeter soil. And so lower seed rate, we were able to reduce the seed rate, and prime seed rate can be used, and so you get beautiful crop establishment. What are the requirements of unpuddled or untilled rice, direct seeded rice? You have to have good land leveling. That's very important. The machine should be good, the drills, so should be able to drop the seeds at right depth, right distance. Seed rate, water management has to be very precise, and weed management, ability to establish residue. And what I show here, these requirements, how important they are for puddled condition or unpuddled condition. They are more important for unpuddled conditions, especially the weed management and ability to establish in residue. Then variety side also, we have to have quick vigor and anaerobic germination, and also lodging resistance, because the rooting is superficial in direct seeded rice. So anchorage is not there, and that's where the lodging resistance is important. Let's start with labeling. Labeling is a very, very difficult job, and you see here, these are conventional methods of, and farmers still use in some parts of the world this difficult way of labeling the field, and it's not easy. Now we have this laser-aided land leveling. There are many, many advantages: lower water requirement for land preparation because you have uniform leveling, improved crop establishment, it decreases time to complete task, increase the farming area by 5%, better crop stand, lower weed pressure, uniform crop maturity. And I have not seen any technology going as fast as this kind of laser land leveling has been going, and some of these data show. In last just few years, the machines and most of these machines are owned by farmers. They do custom hiring. So we got in 2015, these data show about 30,000 machines which are running in South Asia and largely in India and Pakistan, and to some extent Bangladesh and Nepal. Now, another thing we could do because of these right machines, we were able to reduce the seed rate from 100 kilos to 25 kilos. And these data clearly show you don't have yield differences. Even you can go up to 15, 20 kilos. This is a remarkable achievement, which I think reduces the cost of farmer. Of course, water is very important, and there is no reason why you should have continuous flooding, because water requirement of rice and wheat and maize is not very different as far as ET is concerned. So we can do alternate wetting drying, and we also have now sensor-based technologies available, and you can use those sensors, and then it will tell when plant needs water and apply that water. And you will hear some very good work with drip irrigation from Dr. Sandhu later this afternoon. And this is a slide which I borrowed from his presentation. I think it's an excellent piece of work. Maybe it's not yet ready for technology transfer, but I think it's a good start. And there may be some logistics issues that are involved, but this is where I think future is. Irrigate using drip and also fertigation. And you will get higher yields as well, and huge reduction in water use. The weeds are #1 problem, because as soon as you go away from puddling and transplanting, the weed pressure increases. And direct seeded seedlings are less competitive than transplanters, of course. And initial flush of weeds not controlled by flooding, because you are not flooding the field when you have no tillage. And shift in weed communities, increased reliance on limited herbicide, and that's something one has to be very careful about it. And we should learn from countries where the herbicide resistance has become a problem. Of course, it's not something which you cannot control it. You can control it. So more weeds, higher cost, and greater yield loss. If you ask me what is the #1 problem for farmers to not adopt zero tillage, direct seeded rice, is the weed problem. If we can solve the weed problem, I think we have good handle on it. So there are many ways you can handle it. You don't have to do just weed management, but integrated weed management. And you can have combination of some of these stale seed bed. Mulching is very, very useful, which is a part of CA, conservation agriculture. Use of suitable herbicides. There are new molecules of herbicides available. They are more safer. And then crop rotation, intercropping, hand weeding, of course, would be an important part as well. Competitive rice cultivars, water management, and herbicide-resistant rice, we have to think about that. Some very good piece of work, we did it in several sites. And what it really shows, and I won't go in detail because of time shortage, we evaluated several new molecules of herbicides, and we worked with the herbicide companies. And we have some pre-emergence and post-emergence herbicides, just 2 herbicides. If you apply, you have good weed control, and economically also it's a viable option. Now let me move to my other part of topic, which I think is very interesting. If you want to know what is happening, I mean, a lot of people have reported or at least tried these different practices of unpuddled transplanting or even no tillage or after direct seeding with tillage. And so we conducted this meta-analysis, and we got large number of published literature, whatever is in the literature, in refereed journals, and also some unpublished data which we got from our contacts, and both on a station on farm. And there are 6 tillage and crop establishment options. As I mentioned, this paper is just going to be out in next couple of weeks in Nature Scientific Reports. So we have data from 24 countries, 7 regions, 5 soil texture type, number of studies 370, number of tillage crop establishment 6, which I'll show you, and number of data points 4,600. We always used paired data points, so control and then alternative tillage or crop establishment. If there was no control in a study, we would not include that in our study. These are 6 alternative or 5 alternative tillage and crop establishment methods. Number 1 is, of course, control. Conventional tillage, transplanted rice. So CT means conventional tillage and transplanted rice. Then we have conventional tillage, direct seeded rice, which is wet and then dry. And then we have in between unpuddled transplanted rice. And then we have reduced tillage or zero tillage with direct seeded rice. Now let me show you these data. These numbers are shown is number of data points which we had in our meta-analysis. And in the yellow color, you see the % changes. So when you have puddling and direct seeding, there was no yield difference compared to control, which is puddled transplanted rice. But as soon as you move in, try to reduce tillage or avoid tillage, then you have yield losses. And if we are more interested in last one, zero tillage, direct seeded rice, it's about 9% yield loss, okay? Now, when we separated these data from on-station and on-farm, so on-station largely done by you and me, you and I researchers, and so you see here on-station, the reduction of yield is only 4%, and in farmer field, of course, 15%. I'll explain why this may be happening. Another very important, if you're doing it in dry season, then actually there is a yield increase in dry tillage direct seeded rice, which is about 5%. And these are based on large data set, so your statistic power is very good. Now let me show you the other performance parameters other than grain yield. So here is the cost. In all cases, all alternatives, the cost is lower. And dry tillage, no tillage, direct seeded rice, which is the last one, is significant cost reduction. The income is higher, significantly higher. The water requirement is less, and the methane emission, which is very important from global environmental point of view, is also lower. So some of these benefits, people look at only grain yield, no, but you have to look at the other resources as well, and environmental point of view as well. So why we have lower yield in zero tillage direct seeded rice? This is a new and recent introduction. Farmers is still not perfected. And that's why you see more yield loss in farmer field than compared to researcher field. And of course, it's knowledge and tools driven. And that's going to happen for any agriculture practices in the future. It's going to be knowledge intensive. Another very important fact, the varieties which are used by farmers or researchers for zero tillage direct seeded rice, the varieties are not bred for that condition. Varieties are bred for puddle transplanted conditions. So it's not a very good comparison. And now more and more breeders are in getting interested in breeding varieties for this condition. But nevertheless, even though yields are slightly lower, farmers love it because they get extra dollar. Their cost of cultivation is reduced. And they don't have to depend on labor because labor availability is becoming a problem in that part of the world and lower carbon footprint. So we have been working with the breeders and trying to encourage them to look into this for direct seeding, plant type, and what are the traits which are required, anaerobic seed germination. And this is something we also learned from the cultivation where direct seeding is happening in other parts of the world like North America or even Malaysia, for example. Germination, very important, because if you sow the seeds and if rain comes, then seed can drown. And so you have to have this characteristic. High seedling vigor is very important for direct seeding, not so much for transplanted condition, but direct seeded condition. A strong, think, and sturdy come, as I already mentioned, the lodging resistance is important. And tolerance to herbicide, tolerance to nematode. Sometimes if you don't have water or water shortage and you have more drying, then you can have nematode problem. It's not a widespread problem, but that can be. And you have to have, of course, high genetic yield potential. So this is my last couple of slides. If we have extra money, where do we invest? I think land and environmental characterization. Direct seeding is, and there are different forms of direct seeding or no tillage, not going to go everywhere. So it's important that we do good land characterization. And variety, that's where I will invest more money. Irrigation management is still we don't have good handle on when to apply water and how much we apply water in no tillage or direct seeded condition. We got to continue to work with the chemical companies, try different combinations of new molecules of herbicides, more safer herbicides. And of course, we have to be careful about the safety and worry about the resistance is not developed. Nutrients, micronutrients, crop residue, how we handle crop residue, although we have good handle, but I think it's still some work is required. And drills for small land holding. We have good drills developed, at least in South Asia, and large farmers can use it, but I think for a small land holding, it's important. And environmental footprint tax. If we start putting the footprints for rice which is grown under puddle transplanted condition vis-a-vis direct seeded condition, I think the whole thing comes out to be very different. And long-term traits, monitoring at key locations in Asia. So far, we have large number of long-term experiments which are all with puddle transplanted rice. I think it's time we design new generation of long-term experiments. So that's my last slide. So thank you very much for your patience, and I will be happy to answer any question you may have.
Thank you, Dr. Ladha. There will be time for questions at the end of the presentation. The next speaker is el ingeniero Francisco Javier Franco Ávila, who is General Director of Operations and Production of Padrones in Mexico. So the house is yours.
Muy buenos días a todos ustedes.
Good morning, everyone.
Saludo con afecto
My warmest greetings to all of you, and also on behalf of the Mexican government, I wish to express our gratitude to the organizing committee of this extraordinary 7th World Congress on conservation. It is a privilege and a major distinction for yours truly and my team to be here with you in this wonderful country with people who work hard, are talented, innovative, and obtain great results. In my presentation today, I'd like to share with you the experiences we've had in the last 24 years with the government of Mexico, applying the biggest impact program that we've had in Mexican agriculture. The program started in 1993. Next, please. And the next again. Procampo was created 24 years ago, 1993. Next slide, please. So I was saying 1993, this is where Procampo got started, and the program entails compensation actions derived from the North American, Canada, Mexico, and the United States treaty in order to compensate the asymmetries arising from subsidies and other incentives that American farmers had and which damaged Mexican farmers. This is why Procampo was created, to provide direct subsidies to Mexican farmers. The crops that were supported at that time was basic grains and oilseeds. It was a payment received, the payment received depending on the area each farmer had. It was pro rata, and the main goal originally and the destination of this money was for the farmer to use this subsidy in production. However, this did not happen. Unfortunately, farmers at the time were not controlled, were not supervised correctly. That is, the government didn't do it, and the farmer used the money incentive for different activities, for transportation, for feeding, for food, for clothing, everything other than productive activities, because it was an incentive for him, for the farmer, an incentive to consumption, family consumption, that is. And that's how it was for 20 years in different modalities. However, the current administration of Mexico actually turned this whole line of affairs into productive activity. So what has happened in the last 5 years of our federal administration? We transformed the subsidy. It has become incentives. We moved from assistance subsidies onto incentives for production, increasing production and productivity. So now the farmer receives it directly right before seeding. It is not delivered in cash, no checks. That has disappeared because it was ground for corruption. So now the incentive is given directly to the farmer in a bank account or a debit account owned by the farmer. And if the farmer does not have a debit card or a bank account, then a money draft, which is personal and may not be transferred, is made. The farmer usually does have a debit card. All right, the incentive now has to be credited in the account, and if it is not credited, the farmer can come to one of our 750 offices of the Secretary of Agriculture, Fisheries, and Livestock. That's the name of our secretariat. And so the farmer has to come to us with documents evidencing his activity, invoices, tickets, whatever, how the money was used in agricultural activities. For example, improved seeds or fertilizers or leasing of machinery or labor expenses in order to carry out all of his agricultural activities. Likewise, now the incentive has been focused on specific regions and strata. That is, farmers have been stratified by area or other conditions, irrigation, for example, and it is aimed to small farmers, less than 1 hectare up to 5 hectares, but the farmers that we have dubbed transition farmers, 5 to 25 hectares, also receive the incentive. This group, 5 to 25 hectares, is where the productive potential of Mexico lies to grow food-wise. But we don't forget our large farmers either. Large farmers for us are those who have over 20 hectares all the way up to 80 hectares. These are our large farmers. If we talk of land holding in Mexico, large areas are not allowed by law. Larger than that. So our program has a list of farmers, each one with his own or her own dossier. And this dossier has been digitized, and also the land or lands, addition of lands, have been georeferenced, spatially referenced. So we know the size of the holding. We have satellite photographs of the holdings, and lastly, we do supervision and oversight. We verify the land holding and the fact that the farmer has actually seeded. And satellite images allow us to identify where there has been a low likelihood of sowing, and so we go there, verify if we are in doubt, according to the satellite images, if we are in doubt that no seeding may have happened, we come to the place. And if actually the farmer has not planted, then he has to give back the resource, because it's tax money, and so it's a federal government money, and the farmer has to give it back if it has not been used correctly. This is our Pro-Agro Productivo. And what about impacts? The specific objective of the program is providing liquidity. That is, it's the only federal government program that gives money to the farmer. It's not given it's always given in money and some people would say, why don't we give them seeds or fertilizer? No, we want the farmer to have liquidity, to have the cash, and to use that cash in different options, all having to do with agricultural activities, because otherwise money could be deviated, could be used for different purposes. And so this is the only program that provides both the resource and liquidity to the farmer. And it is focused on land holdings used for agriculture. And all of those land holdings are what we call production units. What are the groups this is aimed to? Self-consumption up to 5 hectares, transition farmers from 5 to 20, and commercial farmers above 20 hectares. Now, how much do we give? How much resource does the farmer get? It's the equivalent to $80, give or take. So it's 1,500 pesos of Argentina or of Mexico. So $80, $85 per hectare every year. So be it for the fall-winter cycle as well as for the spring-summer cycle. Impacts. 3,282,000 hectares, no, not hectares, land holdings are part of this program, representing over 2 million farmers. More land holdings than farmers, obviously, because some farmers have 2 or 3 holdings in average. What is the area covered by the program? 11,623,000 hectares. So that would be half the agricultural area land in our country. Basically, grains, oilseeds, some fruit, some vegetables, and some forage and grasslands. What are our resources? 8,500 million pesos is what we are providing for the program. In a few more seconds, we'll talk about the future and also about the problems that we have had and the lessons learned. For the coming months, the program will be differentiated by quotas per crop and per group. Why are we going to do this? Because we are importing now major volumes. We import over 10 million tons of yellow corn, and we need to provide incentives to white corn because we depend on imports from the U.S. of this grain. So now with the latest negotiation for the free commerce agreement, Mexico is getting together with South America, in particular Argentina, to participate jointly in the production of soybean, for example. You produce soybean, we don't. You produce yellow and white corn. We need both of those. You produce large amounts of wheat. We do as well, but we need your wheat as well. So we're now looking towards South America, and in particular Argentina and Chile, to import our corn from here, not only from the U.S. ProAgro has entered into agreement with rural financing groups, so that the incentive given to the farmer could be used as warranty for getting official loans from the Mexican bank. So if it's 5 hectares, they get 7,500 pesos, which will be warranty for twice as large a loan with commercial banks. After a few years, when the list of farmers was closed, now we've opened it up again. So that new farmers can be registered, and we have no agreements with breeders, so that for the first time our farmers will be getting technical assistance thanks to the international organization that has a major presence in Mexico. They will be providing technical assistance to our farmers. Dr. Bram Webers will be talking about the CIMMYT for Latin America. And he will be talking about us as well as others getting those loans, that knowledge. One piece of information having to do with technical assistance and outreach. Our budget has moved from 14 billion pesos. We've gone down to half that much, and with that monies, we need to support all of our farmers, trying not to affect small farmers or larger but still small, to try to, we are cutting down the incentive. It used to be $100, now it's $80, and those who have larger areas or holdings will not be the priority, because we need to focus and stimulate smaller farmers. Thank you all for having listened to our presentation about our ProAgro program, that is the one with the greatest impact in all of Mexico. So thank you very much, and I wish you the very best for this Congress.
Well, I think we don't have time for questions. We are running just one, if there is a short one, maybe. Yes, there's one question in the room.
Thank you. Thank you, Jagdish. Very, very interesting and helpful presentation. The question I have is, how do you see the potential of perennial rice in no-till rice systems in the future?
Dr. Ladha?
The question is, what are the prospects of perennial rice? Actually, that's something, a project about, I remember 15 years ago, he ran it for several years. And the main problem associated with perennial rice is that the yields are low, and number one, there are more chances of developing pest and diseases problem because the rice is always in the field. And so more or less this project was stopped because we thought that it's not a viable proposition.
Well, thank you, Dr. Ladha. And if there is any other question for Ingeniero Ávila, well, it's a short one, yes. Thank you.
This is a question for Dr. Ladha.
Okay.
When we can expect a variety which is best suitable for direct seeding rice?
Just like you, I'm also getting impatient. I like to have it as soon as possible. But as you know, Dr. Sandhu, that the whole breeding program for direct seeding started just recently. And IRI hired a breeder for direct seeding is about 5 years ago. But I know, and I have been directly associated with this breeder, there's a lot of good material is in pipeline. So hopefully, I think in the next couple of years, we will see some good material coming out.
Well, and finally, I have one question for Dr. Ávila, for Ingeniero Ávila. I will speak in Spanish too.
Where does the funding come from? Does it come from the Mexican government, or do you have a specific fund for that? Yes. Where does the financial resource come? Comes from the federal government, from the revenue, the government revenue, what they collect from taxes. They have already assigned a budget for different ministries. And for the Ministry of Secretary of Agriculture, they have a specific share of about 25% of the agricultural budget has been allotted to this program. But they are, the funding comes from the government revenue.
For now, we are run out of time. So thank you very much for your attendance, and well, let's great full presentations. Thank you.